Hello friends, on your screens you are watching the synopsis or a summary of Accounting Standard 12. You can take screenshot of this for your revision purpose. Hello friends, I hope you and your families are doing good and that you all are liking this series of accounting standards. I am Priyanka Purohit from Shadi Samriddhi Guidance SSG. So today we are going to start with a new accounting standard, Accounting Standard 12, Accounting for Government Grants. So let us start this. In this accounting standard, we have to learn majorly three things. First one is when to recognize government grant. Second one is how to recognize government grant. And third one is treatment when it is to be refunded. So let us look into it one by one. First of all, let us understand the meaning of government grants. So what are government grants? Assistance by government in cash or in kind to an enterprise for past or future compliance with certain conditions. So, whenever government gives assistance either in cash or in kind to any enterprise, whether for past or for future compliance with certain conditions attached to it, then it is regarded as government grant. Some things are excluded from government grants. Which are they? Government assistance which cannot be reasonably have value placed upon them. When any assistance government gives assistance in cash or in kind and in various means and ways, so when it cannot be reasonably valued, then it cannot be come under under the purview of this accounting standard. Also, transactions with government which cannot be distinguished from the normal trading transactions of the enterprise. So any transaction which cannot be distinguished from the normal trading, because government grant is a special and does not come under the ordinary course of business, so it must not any transaction with government which cannot be distinguished from normal trading, it won't be covered by accounting standard 12. So the first point is how to and when to recognize government grants. So a government grant is not recognized until there is reasonable assurance. The words which I am highlighting, you can also highlight in your notes, whichever you are referring, because these are the keywords which you have to mention in the exams to get full marks of for the accounting standard questions. So, a government grant is not recognized until and unless there is a reasonable assurance that two things, for two things you must have reasonable assurance. The enterprise will comply with the conditions attaching to it, and the word here is and the grant will be received. That is, there is reasonable certainty that the grant will be received by you. In case of any income, like we have already studied in accounting standard 7, which was for construction contract, as well as in accounting standard line 9, which was regarding revenue recognition. In those accounting standard also we have learned this, that for recognizing any income, two things must be present, out of which one was it can be it can be measured with certainty, and also it is certain that you will receive it. So in this government grant also it's kind of an income for you, because money will be inflow in your enterprise, so grant will be received. This should be certain. Also, you must comply with all the conditions which are required so that you can enjoy that grant. And if you don't follow the conditions or you don't comply with the conditions, you might have to refund the grant. So receipt of a grant is not in itself conclusive evidence that the conditions attaching to the grant have been or will be fulfilled, because just merely since you have received the grant, it does not mean that it will be stay for you with you without any conditions, because some conditions are attached even for future period also, so you have to fulfill it throughout the period. If it is not fulfilled, then the government can also ask for its refund. So merely a receipt is not in itself a conclusive evidence that the grant that all the conditions have been fulfilled. or will be fulfilled. So now we will move on to types of government grants. The first one is non-monetary government grants. So what are these non-monetary government grants? Any grants from government in the form of non-monetary assets. That is, it is in kind, not in cash but in kind, such as land or any other resource, which can be either be given at concessional rates. So in case of non-monetary government grants, you can receive non-monetary assets such as land, and it can also be given to you at concessional rates. So what will be the accounting treatment? Account for such assets at their acquisition cost, the cost at which you have acquired, that you will record it at that cost only. Non-monetary assets given free of cost are recorded at nominal value. So in case, let us say the asset was of 100 crores, but government has charged you or government has sold it to you just for 80 lakhs. So this it is a can be regarded as an example of concessional rate. But let us say that the asset was of 100 crores, but the government has granted that asset, that is, it has given you the asset free of cost. So then you must account this asset in your books of account. Then at what price you will account it? So you can record it at a nominal value, that is for namesake value. This value can be 1 rupee or 10 rupee or 100 rupee, whichever you want to keep it, you want to record it, but it must be recorded because it must that asset must be shown in your books of account for better presentation of the P&L of the balance sheet. So the next one is presentation of grants related to specific fixed asset. It is a kind of monetary grants. When the government gives you a particular asset, then how you will recognize it, what will be the treatment? Now let us see that. The first method for such monetary grant is for both depreciable as well as non-depreciable. You have to follow this. The grant is shown as a deduction from the gross value of the asset concerned in arriving at its book value, therefore reduce depreciation. That is, say, let us say the asset which you have purchased was of 100 lakhs, but the asset grant issued is 80 lakhs. So you will subtract this 80 lakhs from the original cost of the asset, that is 100 lakhs, and now you will record the asset at 20 lakhs value, and hence the depreciation on this asset would be reduced. Where the grant equals the whole or virtually the whole of the cost of the asset is shown in the balance sheet at nominal value. So again it will be treated as you, since the value of the grant will be equal to the cost of the asset, so it will be recorded as nominal value because it will be treated again as if that asset is free of cost to you. So you will record it at monetary value, nominal value. Another method which you can follow in this particular type of grant, that is monetary grant, is grants related to, if the grant is related to depreciable asset, then you can treat it, that grant amount, as deferred income, which is recognized in the P&L statement on a systematic and rational basis over the useful life of the asset. So in this case what you will do, let us say the asset was of 100 lakhs and you received a grant of 80 lakhs. So you will just show the asset on the asset side at 100 lakhs, and you will show this government grant as not as government grant, but you will create a different account with the name deferred government grant, and you will show this 80 lakhs in the liability side. And let us say the depreciation, since it is a depreciable asset, the rate of depreciation is 10%. So when you will charge depreciation in the next year, the amount will be the carrying value or the WDV of the asset will be 100 minus 10, that is 90. Similarly, you will defer and amortize the deferred government grant also in the P&L at 10% only. So the grant was of 80 lakhs, so you will amortize 8 lakh, 8 lakhs, 10% of 80 lakhs to P&L. Similarly, henceforth you will do the accounting, that is deferred and amortization method. So if the grant is relating to non-depreciable asset, first we have seen the when the asset was depreciable asset. Now we are going to see when the asset is a non-depreciable asset, then it requires to fulfill. Then there are two cases: either the some certain obligations are attached to it, or no obligation is pending. So when no obligation is pending, then you can just credit it to the capital reserve. When the asset is a non-depreciable asset and no obligation is pending, then either you can just credit it to the capital reserve. You can credit the amount of grant to the capital reserve and just leave it. You don't need to do anything further. But if it is a non-depreciable asset and certain fulfillment of certain obligations is mandatory, then such grant are treated as deferred income and credited to income over the same period over which the cost of meeting such obligation is charged to the income. So let us say the it is a non-depreciable asset and certain fulfillment of obligation is necessary. Let us say you have to fulfill the conditions for 8 years, then you will amortize it for 8 years. You will amortize, that is defer the grant for 8 years. Like this you have to do in the P&L. Now let us move on to the another category of grants when the grant are related to revenue. Earlier we have seen non-monetary grant as well as monetary grant for which were related to specific assets, fixed asset. Now we are going to see presentation of grants related to revenue. Revenue, you can take best example of, let us say a company like Air India, which is a public company. So it since it was a sick company, it was facing so much of losses, it was not able to pay for the salary of its staff. So government gave it grant to make the revenue payment, like in revenue nature payment of salary. So whenever government gives a grant related to revenue expenses, then it is called as revenue grant. So grants related to revenue are sometimes presented as a credit in P&L, either separately or under the general heading as other income. So you will show it in the P&L only, credit it in P&L as other income, either in general heading or separately. Alternatively, they are deducted in the reporting related expense. So either you can show it in the credit side as other income, or you can subtract it from the related expense. Say grant was revenue grant was related to salaries, so you can subtract it from the salary and the net salary will be displayed in the P&L. If the grant relates to multiple years, because then it can be treated as deferred income and then transferred to P&L on the above principles only. Okay, so if it is related to or subjected to 1 year only, then you will follow the first treatment. But if it relates to multiple years, then it can be treated as deferred income and you can transfer it to P&L, same as we have done earlier. The next point is regarding presentation of grants of the nature of promoters contribution. So what is promoters contribution? The person who contributes uh, in the commencement of the business, for starting up of the business, means his capital will be utilized for n number of purposes, not for a particular expense, that is revenue nature, and not for a particular asset. So that money is called as promoters contribution, which provides money in the inception, at the time of inception of the business. So where the government grants are of the nature of promoter contribution, the grants are treated as capital reserve, which can neither be distributed as dividend nor be considered as deferred income. So it must not be distributed as dividend and cannot be considered as deferred income, because uh, such example of such grant of nature of promoter contribution can be government gives grant to people who, if they establish their business or industry in the SEZ, that is the special economic zones. So if the person opens up industry or set up businesses in such areas, then government issues grant in the nature of promoter contribution, and this capital contribution, that is grant, cannot be utilized for distribution of dividend or deferred income. That is the purpose or the intention of government behind issuing such grant, is that such a money must be invested only for the particular industry only and not for any other purposes. Hence it must be treated as capital reserve. The last point is regarding the refund of the government grants. Whenever the grant is refundable, that is you have not fulfilled the conditions which were attached to it, then you have to follow this statement. And what you have to do, if you put it in simple words, you just have to reverse the entry which you have made earlier. Means when at the time of recording the government grant or recognizing the government grant, what you have done, you just have to reverse it. If you have added it, you have to subtract it. Like you have subtracted it from the cost of asset, then you have to add back to it. Like this you have to do. Let us look into the concept first. Government grants sometimes become refundable because certain conditions are not fulfilled and are treated as an extraordinary item. So whenever a grant is refundable, you have to show it, treat it as an extraordinary item by following accounting standard 5. The amount refundable in respect of government grant related to revenue is applied first against any unamortized deferred credit remaining in respect of the grant. To the extent that amount refundable exceeds any such deferred credit, or where no deferred credit exists, the amount is charged immediately to the P&L. So I guess you might not have understood this by the plain reading, so I will give you an example. See, earlier we have took an example where the asset was of 100 lakhs and the grant was of 80 lakhs. So it says that it must be, first of all, whenever the grant is refundable, you have to first against it against any unamortized deferred credit. Unamortized deferred credit is the balance which is remaining in the liability side of the deferred government grant. So let us say the grant was refundable in the very next year, when you have already subtracted it, when you have already subtracted that 80 lakhs was the grant, and since the depreciation rate was 10%, you have already deferred or amortized rupees 8 lakhs in the P&L. So the balance 72 lakhs is the unamortized deferred credit. So you have already, first of all, you have not, it was standing in the liability only, it is, and it has not hit the P&L. So what is this particular sentence stating? That you have to first then such amount must be again first settled against the unamortized deferred credit only, and any balance, that is the amount which you have hit the P&L, that will be again reversed from the P&L. That is 8 lakhs rupees which we have earlier debited, that only will be credited in the P&L. We will you will get to know this about treatment when we will solve questions. The amount refundable in respect of government grant related to a specific fixed asset is recorded by increasing the book value of the asset or by reducing the deferred income balance as appropriate by the amount refundable. This case we have already discussed, that if you have subtracted from the book value of asset, now you have to increase the book value of asset, or you have reduced the deferred income, then you have to or by reducing the deferred income balance, hence you have to again reverse that entry. Where a grant which is in nature of promoter contribution becomes refundable in full or either in part to the government on non-fulfillment of some specified condition, the relevant amount recoverable by the government is reduced from the capital reserve. So whenever the any amount or a grant is hitted in the capital reserve, like in case of promoter contribution, you just have to reverse it. The disclosure requirement of this accounting standard are: the accounting policy adopted by the adopted for government grants, including the method of presentation, must be disclosed. Also, the nature and extent of government grants recognized in the financial statement, including grants of non-monetary assets given at concessional rates or free of cost. All the nature and extent you have to disclose in. So now we have completed the concept part of accounting standard 12. Now we will move on to the questions of practice manual and SM. You can take a screenshot of this screen. Uh, in this, it is like a summary of what all treatment you have to do. This is when it is recognized, you have to debit the bank or receivable account, and when it is refunded, you have to follow all these entries. This is nothing but the reversal of this entry, so you can definitely revise it quickly during the exam time or before exam, or also in revision purposes. So I will give you time to take a screenshot of this. Practice manual questions of accounting standard 12. There is only one theory question practice manual. Let us complete it first. Write a short note on treatment of refund of government grants. This we have already covered in concept video, but we will again give it a plain reading. As per accounting standard 12, accounting for government grant that becomes refundable should be treated as an extraordinary item. The amount refundable in respect of government grant related to revenue is applied first against any unamortized deferred credit remaining in respect of such grant. To the extent amount refundable exceeds any such deferred credit, or where no deferred credit exists, the amount is charged immediately to the P&L statement. Also, the amount refundable in respect of government grant related to a specific fixed asset is recorded by increasing the book value of the asset or by reducing the capital reserve or deferred income balance as appropriate by the amount refundable. In the first alternative, that is, where the book value of the asset is increased, depreciation on the revised book value is provided prospectively over the residual useful life. So we have to compute the revised book value, and on that we have to provide uh, provide depreciation over the remaining or the residual useful life prospectively. Where a grant which is in nature of promoter's contribution, it becomes refundable either in full or in part to the government on non-fulfillment of some specified conditions. The relevant amount recoverable by the government is reduced from the capital reserve, that is, the entry is reversed. Now let us look into the study material illustrations of accounting standard 12. Sagar Limited belongs to the engineering industry. The chief accountant has prepared draft account for the year ended 31st March 2017. You are required to advise the company on the following item from the viewpoint of finalization of account, taking note of the mandatory accounting standard. The company purchased on 1st of April 2016, that is exactly at the opening of the year, at the start of the year, some special purpose machinery for rupees 25 lakhs. It received a central government grant for, for 20% of the price. The machine has an effective life of 10 years. So what must be the treatment of this government grant? It is in monetary nature, monetary asset grant. So accounting standard 12, accounting for government grants, states recording regards two methods for presentation of grant related to specific fixed assets in the financial statement as acceptable alternatives. That is, both are acceptable. You can follow any one method which you wish for. Under the first method, the grant is as a deduction from the gross block. As a deduction from the gross book value of the machinery in arriving its book value, the grant is thus recognized in the P&L statement over the useful life of the depreciable asset by way of a reduced depreciation charge. So in this case, if you follow the first method, that is deduction from the book value, when grant is deducted from the gross book value, then the grant is recognized in P&L and it will be so due to depreciation, it will be recorded in the P&L. Under the second method, what is the second method? It can be treated as a deferred income, which should be recognized in the P&L statement over the useful life of 10 years, which is the life of the asset, in proportion in which depreciation on machinery will be charged. So, when asset is shown in its full value and grant is shown as deferred government grant in on the liability side, then both asset as well as this grant must be amortized and deferred in the proportion of depreciation only. If the depreciation is 10%, then grant will also be amortized in 10%. The deferred income pending its apportionment to P&L should be disclosed in the balance sheet with a suitable description, that is deferred government grant, to be shown after the reserves and surplus but before secured loans. So they have also shown the placement of deferred government grants in the balance sheet. The following should also be disclosed: the accounting policy adopted for government grants, including the method of presentation, which method you are following and what is the accounting policy, you have to disclose that. And secondly, the nature and extent of government grant recognized in the financial statement, that is 5 lakhs, is required to be credited to the P&L statement of the current year. So since it was of asset was of 25 lakhs, machinery was of 25 lakhs, and 20% grant is received, that is 5 lakhs, that is to be shown. So in this question, the government will give 20% of the cost of investment, and also since all conditions have been fulfilled, it can be treated as this grant was in nature of promoters contribution, and in promoters contribution we have already seen that if conditions are fulfilled, whatever is the case, then you have to treat it, you have to already treat it as a capital reserve, and it must neither be distributed as dividend nor it can be considered as deferred income. So the treatment which the company is following is not correct. Let us look into the answer. As per para 10 of AS 12, accounting for government grants, where the government grants are of nature of promoters contribution, that is they are given with reference to the total investment in any undertaking or by way of contribution towards its total capital outlay, for example central investment subsidiary scheme, and no repayment in its ordinary is ordinarily expected in respect thereof. Since there are no further conditions attached, then no repayment is ordinarily expected. The grants are treated as capital reserve, which can be neither distributed as dividend nor considered as deferred income. In the given case, the subsidy received is neither in relation to specific fixed asset nor in relation to revenue. So it is neither related to a specific fixed asset nor it is related to revenue. Thus, it is inappropriate to recognize government grant in P&L statement, since they are not earned. These are not earned but represent an incentive provided by the government without related cost. The correct treatment is to credit the subsidy in capital reserve. Therefore, the accounting treatment followed is not proper. So I think you must have understood this. So let us move on to the next question. On 1st of April 2014, ABC Limited received government grant of rupees 300 lakhs for the acquisition of machinery costing 1500 lakhs. So the grant was of 300 lakhs, whereas the machinery was of 1500 lakhs. The grant was credited to the cost of the asset, that is it has been deducted. So the asset is recorded at 1500 minus 300, that is 1200. The life of the machinery is 5 years. The machinery is depreciated at 20% on WDV basis. The company had to refund the grant in May 2017, that is after 15, 16 and 17. So after 3 years they have to refund it due to the non-fulfillment of certain conditions. How would you deal with the refund in case of books of ABC? So let us look into the solution, and there only we will solve it. According to para 21 of AS 12, on accounting of government grants, the amount refundable in respect of grant which is specific to a fixed asset should be recorded by increasing the book value of the asset or by reducing the deferred income balance as appropriate by the amount refundable. Where the book value is increased, depreciation on the revised book value should be provided prospectively over the residual useful life of the asset. So, since let us look into the solution. On 1st of April, the machinery was acquired and it was recorded at 1200 as we have already seen. This grant is subtracted from the cost of asset. So, we will charge depreciation for 3 years to arrive at the date of May. So, at WDV we have to deduct the depreciation 20% less, then we will get the book value. Then again for 15-16 we have to apply depreciation at the rate of 20% on WDV basis. Like this we will get the book value for 1st of April 2017. And in case in the month of May, this grant is became refundable. So as you know, depreciation is charged not for in the middle of the year but only on the end of the year. So we will not charge depreciation for the month of April and May. We will just consider the book value as on 1st of April 2017. So this will be the our book value 614.4, and to this we will add the grant refund. That is entire grant is refundable. So this 300 which we have subtracted here, now we will, this was subtracted here, now we will add it back. We have just reversed the treatment which we have already done when we were recognizing the grant. So the revised book value of the asset will come to 914.4. So on this we will charge depreciation for the remaining useful life. That is already 3 years have elapsed completed and only 2 years are remaining because the useful life of the asset was of 5 years. So depreciation at the rate of 20% on the revised book value amounting 914 is to be provided prospectively over the useful life of the asset, that is 31st March 2015 as well as 31st March 2016. I guess there is a printing mistake in this question. It must be 31st March 2018 and 31st March 2019. You can correct it since the asset was purchased in 14. Since it was purchased in 14, 5 years will be till 19. So now let us look into the last illustration for accounting standard 12. Yogya Limited received a specific grant of rupees 300 lakh for acquiring the plant of 1500 lakh. Similar was the case earlier also, but here the useful life is different. It's 10 years. The grant received was credited to deferred income. So the treatment we have done in first earlier question was using the first method, and here we have used the second method during 16-17. That is, so in this question also you can make the changes. This is not 2010-11, but this is 2014-15. Treat it as 14-15 because as per solution there is a printing mistake. You have to treat it as 14-15. So in the year, say let us say you have purchased the specific asset and also received the grant on 1st of April 2014. So from 14, the first year will be 15, then 16, and then 17. That is after 3 years, due to the non-compliance of the conditions laid down for the grant of rupees 300, the company had to refund the grant to the government. The balance in the deferred income on that date was 3,10,000 and the written down value of the plant was 1050. So if you want to calculate how you derive 1050, it is simple. The cost of the asset was 1500 lakhs and the useful life is 10 years. Also you have to method of depreciation is on straight line method, that is straight line basis. So the depreciation for 1 year would be 1500 divided by 10, that is 150. So 150 minus 150 150 plus 150 plus 150 will make So you can see that the cost was 1500 and depreciation for 1 year was 150, and since 3 years are over, so 115 to 3, so you will get the WDV as 1050. Similarly for grant also, the useful life is 10 years, so you will deduct it or carry amortize grant also over 10 years also. So 300 divided by 10, that gives you 30 for each year, and there are 3 years have elapsed. So 30 into 3, that is 90. So 300 minus 90 will give you 210. What should be the treatment of the refund of the grant and the effect on the cost of fixed asset and the amount of depreciation to be charged during the year 1617 in the statement of P&L? So let us look into this answer first. As per para 21 of accounting standard 12, amount refundable in respect of grant related to revenue should be applied first against any unamortized deferred credit remaining in respect of such grant. To the extent amount is refundable exceeds any such deferred credit, the amount should be charged to the P&L statement. So in this case, the grant refunded is rupees 300 lakhs and the balance in the deferred income is 210. Therefore, 90 lakhs shall be charged to the P&L for the year 2016-17. There will be no effect on the cost of the fixed asset and the depreciation will remain same because we have not followed the first method, that is we have not subtracted it from the cost of the asset, we have shown the grant separately, and hence only this statement will be. So now let us look into the last part of this question. What should be the treatment of the grant if grant was deducted from the cost of the asset? Okay, so if it was if we had followed the first method, that is we have deducted the amount of grant from the cost of the asset, then the treatment would have been when the amount refundable in respect of grant which was related to a specific fixed asset should be recorded by increasing the book value of the asset by the amount refundable. Where the book value of the asset is increased, depreciation on the revised book value should be provided prospectively over the residual useful life of the asset. Therefore, in this case, the book value of the plant shall be increased by 300 lakhs. Why 300 lakhs? Because the grant was of 300 lakhs. And the increased cost of 300 lakh of the plant should be amortized over the remaining useful life, that is 7 years. 10 years was the useful life earlier, 3 years have already elapsed. Now the balance residual life is 7. Similarly, the depreciation charged for the year 1617 shall be 1200 1200, that is the cost of the asset divided by 10 years. The depreciation will also be revised because earlier the cost was 1200 which was for 10 years, and now we have all added this 300 also but for 7 years, so we will compute the revised depreciation as 162.86. So by this we have completed accounting standard 12. I hope you liked this video and it was of some help to you in solving the questions of accounting standard 12. So let us see in the next video with new accounting standard. Till then, it's me, Priyanka Purohit, signing off. Thank you so much.